now we have to get into practice. Oh, it's my favorite chapter.
And that's when it gets crazy. That's when shit.
Yo, honestly, if you don't read any of this book, reading is not for everybody, y'all. And you're like, oh, I'll just watch the video. Just read the relationships chapter.
Yep.
Chapter 6. Read one chapter. One chapter. If you don't have one breakthrough moment, stop. Just
that is wrong with you. Okay?
I love that. I was gonna say something's wrong with me, but you're right. It's not wrong with me.
No, it's wrong with you. Okay? Seriously, this chapter was so...
Oh,
it's
God.
so groundbreaking.
Let's talk about it.
And I feel like I've read so many books after this book was written. So this book was written in the 90s that mirror everything that she says here.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah,
you were such a trendsetter back then, you know? And all she's doing is reviewing the Course in Miracles.
That's right. So the entire book is a reflection to A Course in Miracles. That's what it is.
It's how she's applying and helping people apply these principles in their daily lives.
Yes.
Which is...
And so she starts off the relationship chapter basically saying, when you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. Yo, if that don't change the way you move in the world, I don't know what will.
Or you accept movements as well. Because not only the way that you're moving, but also you may be acting with love and being this loving person, but you may still be treated a certain way in a way that doesn't resonate with you. You also have to think, okay, well, what's going on with that person? So it also...
right, because then you learn to take things less personally.
Exactly.
You're like, yo, that's another thing I've been coming back to a lot is realizing when people do these things, when they cut you off or they say, yo, that wasn't about me. It hurt because I didn't like receiving that, but I can see that this is not about me. Exactly. This is a deeper issue.
Exactly.
Another thing I really loved about this book, you got something. You got a gem. she caught the spirit, y'all. Don't pass out. Another thing that I love that I thought she did really well was she teaches you how to pray. Like she gives really great examples of like, stop praying this way, start praying this way.
By literally sharing prayers that we can do in the book.
They're so great. They're really good prayers. What you got there?
I highlighted here, everyone we meet will either be our crucifier or our savior. Every relationship takes us deeper into heaven or deeper into hell. We just kind of spoke about this, but she fortifies the idea that relationships are holy unions. Relationships are assignments. From the person that you bump into on the train to somebody who you're married to or divorced or whatever, there is always a lesson there for you.
Yes, absolutely. The only thing I would add there, and it's not that you didn't cover it, it's just thinking about what that means for the people that... I think it's easier to handle that with the people you love because you're like, okay, this is my holy mission, right? But the people that you can't stand, there's holy work to be done there too.
Exactly.
Oh, I love this line. It's such a simple line. And like you said, it's the golden rule, right? It's some of this, they're universal truths that we know. So treat others as you want to be treated. Right. And so when she says, if you're judging a brother, you're wrong, even if you're right. And for me, that was huge because, with our community and the gossip, and it's like, oh, so-and-so. And it's like, we're not just doing them wrong when we do that. Like, we're really doing harm against our own souls when we engage in that kind of behavior.
Right. And that kind of behavior, again, stems from fear. And again, further separates us from love, further separates us from God, and further separates us from ourselves. She also kind of teaches us how to be miracle workers. It's like, you don't need to shake your finger at somebody because that's not going to make them change.
No.
Just treat them differently so they can learn to receive and give love.
Yes.
Differently.
That was a huge takeaway for me because we're so quick to like shake our fingers at people and be like, and you're doing this and that wrong. But who's ever changed? I know I have never changed from someone attacking me. Now, if someone comes to me in love and is like, this made me feel this way and that, then I'm like, oh no.
Exactly. I have here, treating someone with compassion and forgiveness is more likely to elicit a healed response. Major.
I underline that, so.
Major.
Yeah, people are less likely to be defensive and more likely to be open to correction.
Just so many bars.
And again, so when we talk about relationships at work, with your family, with a stranger, Like, you talk to people crazy. What do you expect is gonna happen? Exactly. How do you expect them to respond? And I think that is a really big thing when we talk about millennials and we talk about this woke culture. And when we don't acknowledge our privilege sometimes. Those of us that have gotten to go to school and get educated on these things, and we talk down sometimes. Like, don't they know? We should know by now. And it's like, that's not moving in love.
Yep.
That's not how you give back to your community.
Non-reaction was a big takeaway for me. Maybe 4 years ago I would have said, because I'm a Cuban and Dominican woman and we hot-headed. But it's partially true. I can only speak for myself, but I'm so quick to react and be the angry New Yorker and be, the nagging wife and the, back then pissed off girlfriend. But it really does, again, force you to pause and be like, well, hold up. Why am I reacting this way to the way that they're acting?
Yes.
The way that they're acting is actually just a call for love.
Yes.
They need my love more than they need me yelling right now. So take a step back, boo-boo.
Yeah. And also realizing, so for me, I'm not saying I'm not quick to react, because I think we're all quick to react. I'm quick to react. But I would say one of my biggest problems was more so that I ran with my emotions. Like, it's just like, whatever I felt, this is it. Ay, Dios es, like, Dios mío. Oh my God. Like, I know the victim role very well. I play it very well. And not that I play it, like, I can see that a lot more than the other side. And so for me, it was also realizing that feelings are not facts, and like learning how to deal with my emotions. And she does talk about that, because there was a point in the book where I got a little nervous that she was kind of saying that she wasn't acknowledging other feelings, because she's just like fear and love and fear and love and fear and love. And I'm like, well, what do I do with these really tricky emotions like shame and guilt and anger? Because anger is huge, and anger can be a gift in some ways, I learned, because it helped me acknowledge when boundaries were being disrespected. And there was a point in my life that I didn't know about boundaries. So it's like, okay, there's anger here. So I really like the part where she talks about A Course in Miracles is not about pouring pink paint over our anger and pretending it doesn't exist. What is psychologically unsound is spiritually unsound. You don't say, I'm not angry. Really, I'm not. I read page 140 of A Return to Love, and I'm not angry anymore, because we're still going to have these reactions. And so for me, in terms of relationships, it was knowing that I'm a highly sensitive person. I'm an empath. I can run with my emotions. And so that question that you ask yourself, stopping, pausing, and saying, okay, you're feeling this. That's fair. Why? Why are you feeling that?
Right. And why are they feeling that too?
And seeing, it sounds so simple when we break it down. But
it's hard. It's hard. The work is simple, but it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Levels of Teaching was really good for me to read at this point, because it made sense of my relationship with my husband, in that I've always known we were third level. Which is weird.
Explain what first, second, and third level are.
So she talks about different levels of relationships in terms of like relationships being assignments. So no meetings are accidental. The first level is what we think of as a casual encounter, so the person that you meet in an elevator. The second level is more sustained, in which for a time two people enter into a fairly intense teaching learning situation. So every relationship is a teaching learning situation, and then appear to separate. The third level of teaching is a relationship which, once formed, lasts all of our lives.
So you always knew.
I always knew from the second that I met him that we were third level. And I've always said, it was love at first sight, because you don't have this language to apply. Right. So reading this was just like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Like, I always tell him, like, God forbid we divorce tomorrow, which I know in my heart is not going to happen. But God forbid that happens, you're always going to be my third level, because you've taught me things that I will take with me for the rest of my life.
Right.
Even if we would have stayed broken up in 2016, he was still my third level. Not to say that I wouldn't meet somebody else who would also teach me lifelong lessons, but he was my third level.
Right.
That was just like so. I think I hugged him after I read this, because it was just so good, so good. Whatever personal weaknesses are evident in our casual interactions, will inevitably appear magnified in more intense situations.
Say it again. Say it again. And she says that again, like a page or two later. She says, people who have the most to teach us are often the ones who reflect back to us the limits of our own capacity to love.
Yep. She talks about the difference also between capacity and potential, which I really loved and forced me to look at my about me page on my website because I promote, helping people reach their highest potential. But potential gives you like a false destination because potential is never ending. Like you're always have a higher potential.
Right.
But when it comes to capacity, when you're at capacity, that's it. I was like, oh my God, brain explosions, bars, this is crazy. It just makes so much sense. So much sense.
I saw a meme the other day that was like, stop sharing your trauma and thinking that's your soulmate. You know what I mean? Like, you have this shared trauma and you're like, oh, it's my soulmate. It's like, no, you just share the same trauma.
My twin star, my twin soul. Bye.
And she was saying that. She talks a lot about the ego, that under the ego's direction, we come together to share desperation. And I think that I learned a lot about the ego in this book.
Yeah. She talks about it like in every chapter, which I think is really important. One, because people have this perception that the ego is what Beyonce talks about in her song, and we're not talking about that. The ego is, so because I've done a lot of research on all these spiritual things, the ego has a purpose. It creates a personality for us. It separates us in a way that it creates a persona for us. So it separates us from everybody else in that we are who we are. But when an ego becomes overactive, when it starts to separate you spiritually, is when the ego becomes a problem.
Right.
And she talks about that throughout the text.
It's like anything, it serves a purpose. We're not saying the ego is evil and you shouldn't have one.
Right.
Everything serves a purpose until it doesn't.
Which I
Too
think,
much of anything.
Yeah. People run with the idea that the ego is evil. Like there's even t-shirts that say the ego is not my amigo. Yeah, it kind of is. You need it.
Right.
You need
it.
Right. All negative aspects of you sort of need to, create harmony in your life. But when you let it run your life, run your relationships, run the way that you show and receive love is when it becomes a problem.
Right.
There's a really juicy part on page 164 where she talks about commitment, which was juicy just thinking back to like high school drama and like just drama that I had in my past. And she talks about allowing your partner to speak to and heal with their past partners because it only increases their capacity to love you from a healed and whole space.
Amen.
I was like, oh my God.
And she gives, like you said, she gives personal examples of where she was dating someone and he came back and he had a fight with his ex and she called and no, she didn't call. He was like, yo, go. She said to him, go call her.
And she said, the last woman in his life is not my competition. She's my sister.
But when we don't work from that, we're working from fear. Exactly. Because we are scared we're going to lose.
Exactly. Which also says a lot about you because you're operating from a place of lack.
Yep.
So you're not only preventing yourself from receiving love, but receiving anything. You know that I'm like all about manifestation.
Yeah.
You're literally not able to connect in any way when you block that way. That
was one of those, like, that's a mind-blowing, because it's not what we don't see it on TV. Everyone's like, oh no, that's his ex. Like, and people have criticized me in my relationship because I always say, like, Steven and I once did a video where, like, can you not talk to your ex? Steven talks to his ex. I'm not saying they're best friends and they go out for coffee every week, but like where there were things that needed to be healed, I allowed him to do that and he allowed me to do the same.
Exactly. It's a really mind-blowing topic, especially in our culture.
Because they'd be like, you did. No, muchacho, tú no puedes dejar que...
Exactly.
But it's fear.
Everything becomes a threat. Yeah, I feel like in Caribbean communities, even Black and brown communities, there's so much fear.
Yeah.
That's just taught at such an early age. And it's really not anybody's fault. It's just passed down, but, it's really up to us to break it.
I also just really like the part where she talks about when people say they just can't find someone to be in a relationship with. And it's like an intimate, romantic love. is like taking graduate work towards a PhD in the ways of love, and many of us are hardly out of elementary school.
Bars. Bars.
And I honestly, if I keep flipping, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
This book has so many quotables. I will say, and then after the relationships chapter, which is epic, is the work chapter, which also has some gems and some jewels.
A lot. Love gives energy and direction. It's spiritual fuel. Like, there's just so many. There's a lot.
And then, you know, she goes into the body. Was there anything else that I missed after the body? Just like the body in conclusion.
The body, and then right after the body is heaven.
Okay.
Body for me didn't do it. You want to talk about what you thought?
Yeah, it's one of those dry areas. She also came out with this book when there was like the height of the AIDS epidemic, and so there's a lot of letters from people to AIDS and from AIDS to people.
She actually says that she opened a center for people healing from HIV and AIDS in New York and in LA. So it makes a lot of sense, you know, why she has that.
Yeah.
But I felt like it wasn't the right place for it in the book. I mean, there are still some gems in the body chapter. I have some highlights here.
Go ahead, girl.
We take care of the body as a way of taking better care of the spirit. So mind-body connection. And she also says spiritually, we should be getting younger the older we get, since the only purpose of time is that we learn to more consistently relinquish our attachment to form, a healthy instrument. The body is a healthy instrument and a thing of joy.
Right.
So there are some parts that I did definitely resonate with. But yeah, the body chapter was a little dry.
There were some parts, and there was definitely like you said, there was good to it. I think there was one point where she said, what did she say that I liked? I mean, she says some interesting things about sex, which I think is real. Like, let's talk. You know, it's important to talk about
Let's talk about sex.
I really love that. She says, when sex is it's on page 250. When sex is of the Holy Spirit, it is a deepening of communication. When it is of the ego, it is a substitute for communication. Oh, wow. When it is of the ego, it is a substitute of communication. The Holy Spirit uses sex to heal us. The ego uses it to wound us. Yo, that part for me was hard. It was like one of those truths that you're like, I don't want to like this right now. Because in previous relationships, and I know a lot of people who like, instead of talking about what the problem is, you know, there's a huge problem and it's sitting right on the couch with the two of y'all and y'all like, let's just have sex.
And it's a societal thing. It's so pushed. Look at makeup sex. Why is makeup sex such a thing?
It's like, wait, what were we fighting about? I don't remember, but that felt really good. That is ego-driven sex.
Exactly. And then people wonder why their relationships fail. Are you communicating or are you... Come on, you say my mouth.
Yo, and that is why, look, I know it's super old school, but that is where there is some truth to some of these super conservative stuff, where I'm not, you know, to each his own, but when they say wait, there's a reason to wait. It's not just to have you to torture, it's because that is confusing.
Right.
Hormones take over, all this stuff takes over, and you're not doing the work that needs to be done, the emotional, the communicating, because you're like, yo, but this feels really good.
Exactly. You start to block out because you start to block out the spiritual aspect of it, which is your relationship.
Yeah.
And you start to associate more with the physical.
Yes. Which is dangerous.
Yeah. The universe is created to support us in every way. God is constantly expressing his infinite care for us. The only problem is we don't agree with him. We don't love ourselves as he loves us, and so we block our experience of the miracles to which we're entitled. The abundance, the miracles, same thing. And we literally block ourselves from receiving them because we don't agree with the way God does things. When I talk to people about, you know, manifesting and releasing and moon rituals and things like that, I say a lot. I talk about surrender a lot because you have to surrender your idea of specifics.
Yeah.
So again, this teaches you how to pray, and God, you don't pray, God, please give me, you know, the job at, you know, Forever 21. No, God, please give me a job that fulfills me, mind, body, and soul, you know, and financially. Don't try to make sense of God's plan too much, because it probably won't make sense to you now, but it will make sense to you later.
Right.
Which spoke volumes to me when I first read this, because I was trying to make sense of why we were separating physically.
Yeah.
Because we had to be joined spiritually.
Right. One thing I really did like how she ended the chapter was how she took kind of like the birth of Jesus and that whole natal scene and even Easter, and used these ideas of birth and resurrection and tied them to these universal spiritual truths. And so she had this amazing way of just taking a scene. The angels awakened Mary in the middle of the night and told them to meet them on the roof. And then she takes that, she says, come onto the roof means turn off the television, sober up, read better books, meditate, and pray. And so she took these like really concrete, these stories that we were talking about earlier, and she shows us how they're universal truths that we need to start applying in our lives. And then she ends the book, as she does a lot throughout. Did you have anything on that?
Nope, I highlighted the same prayer.
You know what I think would be dope? This is going to be super cheesy, but it's all good. If we did like almost like a choral reading of the final prayer. And just so you can kind of see where the book ends and that note of power. So you ready?
Yep.
Dear God, I give this day to you, the fruit of my labor and the desires of my heart. In your hands I place all questions. On your shoulders I place all burdens. I pray for my brothers and for myself. May we return to love. May our minds be healed. May we all be blessed. May we find our way home from the pain to peace, from fear to love, from hell to heaven.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so down below in the
description box.
There you go, that thing, right? That thing. All of Melanie's information, all of mine information, so you can follow us and check us out, the work that we do. There's a PDF with that Melanie so graciously prepared for us with all the prayers from this book. If you don't want to read it, you can just watch us talk about it. But I do think that you should read it. Like, I really think
it's worth everybody at least skimming the chapters, or at least having this, like, you know, people have almanacs in their house and like encyclopedias that they never open unless they absolutely need it. This is a book that acts that way. Yeah. Like, if you need a refresher on, you know, relationships or miracles or work or career, pick this up. I think it's worth it. It's worth the buy.
I agree. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like or comment or subscribe. Let us know what you thought. And we look forward to your personal growth as we continue to grow. Yeah. And really thank you for taking the time to watch this.
Thank you.